Around. All right. Had some technical difficulties. My computer is a little rough, if you will, but here I am. I'm good. Um, Let me get started because we're wasting enough time. But yeah, so I was basically saying the title of this is "What the fuck is permaculture?" and the reason I'm doing this is because I just got back, well, like 2 days ago. Actually, it was a week ago. I was kicking it on the Caribbean coast afterwards. But so yeah, like a week ago, I finished my permaculture design course at Punta Mona. That's in Costa Rica. It's like the Caribbean coast. So it's like the east side that you know goes along the Caribbean Ocean. It's very tropical. Pura vida, that's what people say out here. It's so alive, just bursting with life. Um, One sec. Yeah, so it was really cool being there, learning. Even though I'm from a temperate climate, it was still really cool. I learned a lot of shit from the uh, the teachers, Stephen Brooks and Itai, I think Hoban. But yeah, those dudes are really cool. A lot of knowledge. Um, Steven's like a tree and plant person, mostly a tree person, so he knows a lot about trees. He's been working with trees for a long time. Itai is an amazing permaculturist as well. And yeah, it's just really cool to have learned from them. And now I'm feeling extremely excited, confident, just fucking ready, ready to get going, ready to get to work. And so one of the main things that I've had problems with in the past, as far as um, going to people and saying I'm a permaculturist, I do permaculture, and essentially like, what the fuck is that? So that's what kind of prompted me to do this video. I want to just go through a few things, explain it, and hopefully set you off, the viewer, with a better idea and more appreciation for what permaculture is, and hopefully, it will ignite some excitement in you, and reach out to me or possibly a permaculturist to find more information. So, permaculture. It's interesting that the name came up in, like, I think it was 1978. Bill Mollison and forget his first name, Holgram. They came out with the book Permaculture One. It's a precursor to the more detailed permaculture permaculture book titled The Permaculture Designer's Manual, which came out in 1988. And for permacultures, that's like the Bible. I actually haven't even read it. I haven't gone into it, but I definitely have absorbed information through other people that have you know read it and downloaded the information. But the thing about that is, so what? That's 30, 50 years ago almost. My math is not on point, but you get the idea. So it's fairly new. It's fairly new. But the thing is, indigenous cultures have been practicing permaculture for time beyond our understanding. Um, there was, you're gonna hear me talk about it again, but there was no real monoculture going on at that time, or in the past, um, in the deep past. So, one example is chinampas. And chinampa is basically when you dig out earth and you make a bed, like a big old pile, off to the side. And so when the rains come, they fill up those areas, and on the side is where you plant your medicine and food. And this is really cool because um, permaculture is intended to have multiple uses at one time. You know, if you got a tree that's just there for shade, chances are you could find a better tree that has fruit that puts nitrogen into the soil, which builds the soil. That has strength to grow vines up it, things like that. So you want to think multiple uses. Um, so yeah, the chinampas, they grow food, they hold water, so you could have fish in there, and you could obviously eat those fish. But another really cool aspect about that, the fish being there, is their poop and all that shit. They call it the emulsion. Uh, Feeds the plants. It provides nutrients. It goes into the soil and it creates really an abundant food system. Um, what else about the chinampas? It's just so good. Another good way to hold water. That's another permaculture idea or strategy, is to hold water above ground or slow the absorption of water into the soil. Because obviously, water is a huge resource, and it's important that we utilize it as best as possible. So, yeah, chinampas. They're still practiced today in multiple permaculture sites. Um, and that's something that's been practiced for a very long time. Another one, I don't know the name, but it's like I believe it's from Hawaii or that region. And what they would do is they'd create like a circle of like houses in the water, kind of, and they would throw their scraps in the middle, and the fish would be attracted to that, and then they'd grow larger. So basically, they would put nets. So after put nets to keep the fish in. As they get bigger, they keep the fish in, and there you go. You got a surplus of fish, and you're getting rid of your food waste. You're not just throwing it in the ocean. It's actually being another use. It's having another use. Um, One moment. I want to, since I had technical difficulties on my computer, I want to get the link and put it on my Instagram just so people know where to find me. Un momento, por favor. Okay. So yeah, it's been going on for a long time. It just happens to be nothing against Bill Mollison or anything like that, but it just happens to be that this dude came up with a name for it. And that's cool, because we have a general term that we could all agree on and establish that that's what this is. Instead of having like different names for different techniques, it's all permaculture. Hi. Okay, you're gonna walk? Okay. Cool. Love you. Yeah. So another example I think comes from indigenous American tribes. It's known as Three Sisters. That's pretty common. It's cool because you have three plants and they're all working together. So you got your you got your corn, which grows obviously straight up, and that acts like a trellis for the beans. The beans grow up the corn. Not only do the beans grow up the corn, the beans provide they're nitrogen fixers, so they provide nitrogen in the soil, which enhances the fertility of the soil. Next, you have your ground cover, which is like a squash or a melon, and that provides cover over the soil so that there is not a lot of evaporation of water from the soil. So it keeps it it creates like a nice microclimate in the soil, and that's extremely beneficial. So these three plants work together, and they're known as three sisters. So, based on those three examples, you kind of have an idea of what permaculture really is. You know, I don't like using the term to explain what it is, simply because permanent culture. It's like, it just doesn't really, in my opinion, it doesn't really truly address what the hell you're doing. I mean, yes, you are creating a permanent culture, but it's also like highly in line with nature. You're not just going out, scraping the dirt, throwing seeds, throwing water, and waiting for things to grow, throwing down chemical fertilizers and shit like that. You're utilizing nature's cycles to enhance your production of food and medicine. So, yeah, it's really cool. I'm very excited about it because, well, let me go into what permaculture is not. I don't want to get too over the top, because you can go on and on and on about the negatives of the world as far as food is concerned. But I'll give you a brief idea of what permaculture is not. So, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is monoculture. And most of you have seen monoculture. Coming from the United States, it's pretty much everywhere. Corn, soy, even cattle. That's all a monoculture. It's mono's one, and one plant for acres and acres or hectares and hectares. And the reason why that's bad is because it's not in line with nature. Nothing grows like that in nature. And so because of that, it's degrading the soil. You're using machines, so you're using a lot of oil. Heavily dependent on chemical fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, um, and yeah, it really doesn't make sense. I don't understand. I mean, I guess that we could really go into why this is the way it is, but if you like sit down and think about it, it makes no fucking sense. Um, there is no numbers regarding like how much or how many people you could feed off a permaculture hectare, but I'm confident that you could be way more successful in feeding people with permaculture. If it was established on a large scale, um, I believe people could get fed. Another problem with the current food system is the waste. There's tons of waste, and that's like in permaculture there is no waste. Waste is an opportunity. Waste is a product. Our food scraps become compost or feed your chickens. Um, our human manure and urine, our poop and urine, can be also turned into like a fertilizer or a amendment to the soil. Um, what other kind of waste? Yeah, that's what's coming off the top of my head right now. But so yeah, like in the United States, I'm speaking about the United States specifically because that's where I'm from and I know the most about that. There's tons of food, literally tons of food that goes wasted. I don't know the exact statistics, but every year, every month, it's just ridiculous. I was very fortunate. Shout out to Dana and Marcos. Loving you guys, thinking about you guys. Dana has started a nonprofit in the Bay Area in California using food waste to feed people. And so all the food that is like deemed like I don't know dirty or unusable, but it is usable. They collect that, and they take it to their kitchen, where they have people who, let's just say, don't aren't in the best economic situation, so they need opportunity to work and be in a community. So they got these people working the kitchen, and then they're making money. They're selling good food. So it's a really cool nonprofit. I'm sorry I forgot the name, Dana, but shout out to you because that's really fucking cool. And that's permaculture, in my opinion, because it's addressing multiple issues, multiple needs, community need, food source need, business need. You know, you got to make money, obviously. So yeah, what else is permaculture not? Permaculture is not. Let's see. Fossil fuel dependent. So perhaps when you look at a property, when you go to a property, perhaps you're going to need to do some earthworks, and you might need to rent a big machine, you know, to dig and move earth. But that is literally the only time you should be using oil or things like that. Most of the energy that you need, if not all, comes from the sun, water, and food. So yeah, it's just like permaculture is not the current food system in the United States and most of the Western world. So that gives you a better idea of what it is. Let me see here. And yeah, the reason why I'm sharing this is because I believe it needs to be established, it needs to be adopted on a wide scale, a much larger scale. Say if there were more urban spots, urban permaculture spots where there's an abundance of food for that family, they could share that food or even sell that food, you know, to the community, and that's good food. It's nutrient dense. It's not grown off the chemicals. So imagine that, you know, take a moment and just imagine that, like how beautiful that would be to provide food, opportunity, um, the chance to be healthy, escape that food desert that often occurs in cities and even countrysides. So yeah, I really want to. I'm very passionate about this, and I really want to share this message with y'all. That's why I'm doing a video. Let's see. Okay, so let's go into what culture does look like. Essentially, permaculture is gathering that energy. So, rain catchment systems, you know, collecting your rain in buckets and then using that for your crops. Um, Gray water system. Gray water is from your sink, from your washing machine, from your bathtub. I believe that's it. And so that water, if you use like non-toxic chemicals or like soaps and stuff, that's a valuable resource. You can grow some more plants with that. So you have two valuable resources that you could use to grow stuff aside from tapping into the municipal water system. You know, like I'm not there right now, but I know California has been getting a lot of rain recently. Californians, think about how much you could grow off if all that all that rain that's happened. Probably fill up like two, maybe three big ass gallon or not gallon. I don't know the size, but those big ass blue containers. You know, like that's a valuable resource. That's money. You know, if you think in that business mindset, that's money right there, and you're just letting it go down the drain back into the ocean, collecting trash and shit. And yeah, so let's utilize that. That's two things that permaculturists do to properties. Another one would be, let's see, yeah, food forests. So you can still have your little square area where you grow your tomatoes and your, you know, like the little greenhouse where you grow the greens, obviously. That's still a part of it, and you want to keep that close to your home. So if you have a big property, you're not going to go out trekking. You know, if you got to carry water, you don't have to fucking lug it. It's really close to home, so you could use your gray water, your rain catchment to nourish your patch. You know, your little vegetable green patch. Though outside of that, you can establish food forest, if you will. And basically, what that means is a self-sustaining forest of food. So that's trees, um, bushes with. I'm thinking temperate right now. It's like trees, bushes, berry bushes. The trees would be apple, pear, what else? Cherry. And then you got your vines, ground covers. So all these different things work together in the same spot. And not only, and they work together by creating like this beneficial cocktail in the soil. Each plant puts in and removes different nutrients to create more diversity in the soil. And that's something that you really want to focus on with in permaculture is diversity. You know, that's it's like the other end of monoculture. How much can we get in this small space while still benefiting off each other? Or, you know, if you're working with a large property, how much can you get in there while not like overbearing the smaller plants or the trees that are just starting to grow, things like that. So that's something really exciting that I can't wait to get into. Permaculture looks like ponds, um, and collecting that and then keeping that water on the property, on the surface as long as possible. So, say if it overfills from the rain, you want to have a diversion to go maybe to feed these terraces that you built on the hillside. Or perhaps there's another pond below that fills up when the top one is overfilled. And around these ponds, you could grow trees, you could grow all kinds of shit. You could have fish in those ponds that you harvest. And all these things aren't, you don't have to put input after a while. You know, you step in, design it, set it all up, execute it, and when you walk away, the idea, the point, the goal is to simply harvest. Harvest, maybe cull, that's another term which means like get rid of excess. Something else we do in permaculture, we chop and drop. So there's a term called biomass, and that's leaves, sticks, you know, maybe like decaying wood, things like that. You add to your soil around your plants, and that goes into the soil and it creates more diversity, it creates more fertility, and you don't have huge piles of of shit that you cut up off to the side. You know, it goes straight back into the earth. Think about a forest, all that tree debris. No one's there sweeping it up. Why the fuck did they do that? What it's doing is it's breaking down and going back into the soil to nourish the trees, nourish the plants in the area. So chop and drop, that's another technique we do in permaculture. I like that one a lot. What else does permaculture look like? You know, I really want to address that permaculture isn't just me out there working with the plants, because I can only do so much. I'm a young guy, I'm fit, but at the same time, I can only do so much. You know, I have a family, I have other shit on. I'm not gonna like. The point of permaculture is not to break your back. You know, the general point is to have, as they say at Punta Mona, have more hammock time. So a huge aspect of permaculture is community. You need to work with people. You need to figure the permaculture of community, right? So people with different skill sets benefiting off each other, similar to the way the trees and the plants with different attributes benefit off each other. In our community, we want symbiotic relationships. We don't want the word coming up in mind is succubi. We don't want leeches, you know, like I maybe that sounds rough, but you don't want that. Why would you want that? Someone tapping you of your energy and not returning that. So that's something really important in permaculture. To establish a community that works together. One example of that might be there's something on your property or your farm that you don't produce for some reason or another, but your neighbor up the road does, and that neighbor really wants your cherries. So say they make like for an example, they have bees, so you really want that beeswax. There you go. That's a trade right there. That's a beneficial, a symbiotic relationship where you each get something for that, and there's no fossil fuels involved. There's no you just walk it over or fucking ride the bike over or ride your mule over and trade. So community is super important. Another aspect of permaculture it's addressed, but I feel like some permaculturists can get like a little uncomfortable with the business aspect. I mean, no, there's a lot of permaculturists that are down with the business aspect because you got to make money. We live in a society where you got to make money. You need money to buy shit. You need money to like get the things that you don't have. You need money to pay the people that work for you. So the permaculture of business. And I've been thinking a lot about that lately, just with like my wife. She's got a thriving online business, and I was just thinking about how she sets up projects, if you will, that she could walk away from and collect revenue over time. She doesn't have to input energy over and over and over again. It's set up so people could click the link and then they get what they want. So it's important to utilize that aspect of smarter, not harder, with your business, with your permaculture business. And I don't want to get too into that. That's for another time. But I do want to address that. Permaculture is. I'm about to hashtag permaculture everything, because you could find ways to integrate permaculture techniques and principles and ethics in almost every facet of life. I would like to see that on a larger scale. So anyway, that's some ideas of what permaculture is. Let me give you an example. I want to tell you about Punta Mona. So it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's like a museum, a botanical museum. They have yerba mate, obviously cacao. Cacao's big down in that area. Socratum. I forgot the name. I think it was clove basil. It's like 2 cents in one plant. It was delicious. Obviously, fruits I've never even heard of. There's this. Well, this is not a fruit, but chaya is like this green bushy thing, super nutrient dense and grows like a weed. That was in every salad they served. It was really fucking good. There's fruits like frutapan, breadfruit, huge, just like jackfruit. What else? Durian. There's durian there. There was fucking what's that? I forgot the name. there was some funny names of plants like wax jambu. I didn't get to try that one, but tons of star fruit, sour and sweet. They had sour and sweet star fruit on the property. And just that experience of walking up to it, picking that and biting into it and feeling the nourishment, feeling the sun in the fruit go into my body and nourish me. It's like an experience that it almost makes me emotional, because like I didn't really get that as a kid growing up in the city. So just in that alone, it's super healing for the inner child, and Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. If you have never grown food and harvested it, ate it, it's magical. It's magical. So yeah, Punta Mona is fucking gangster. But it's also kind of rough. You know, the area, the landscape, the climate, all that is kind of rough. You know, poisonous frogs, poisonous fucking snakes, um, howling monkeys. I didn't see any large cats, but they're around. Um, the mud, oh, it's super swampy in some parts. Like in the rainy season, it gets super swamped. Thankfully, it wasn't. It was a dry season, or a dry rainy season, if you will. So I didn't hit when we went hiking in the back there. I didn't hit too much mud, but there was definitely some spots, despite partial rain, that were still muddy. And I imagine if I went back there during a full-on rain season, I don't know, man. I'd get stuck for sure. It'd be kind of freaky. Um, so yeah, it's very wild, which is cool because in permaculture you have not sectors. Fuck, spacing hard. Zones. Yeah, there you go. Zones. So you got zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is just nature, the forest, and 1 is the little garden by your house, your herb and vegetable garden. And in between is like maybe your food forest, your grazing animals, things like that. So it's a true example of the um, the array, or the spectrum of zones there at Punta Mona, which is really cool. Their water system is really cool. They have solar. Um, um, it's yeah, they have solar. They have beautiful homes. They're built really gorgeous with wood from the land, and bamboo from the land. So they're utilizing the resources there already, and that's permaculture. Um, yeah, it was a really good experience. Although not all their food is from that property, I would say about 80% of the food that they serve for lunch, breakfast, and dinner is from the property. So that's really inspiring. And, like I told Steven, the owner, me and Olivia we're watching him and seeing what's going on there. And definitely going to move that forward into our projects. Um, Now let me explain a few projects I got coming up. So I think you have a pretty good idea at this point of what permaculture is. Utilizing resources available to create abundance in food and medicine. The goal is to not resource outside materials as much as possible. Sometimes that could be challenging, especially in this current situation that we're in, where we're breaking away from non-sustainable practices. It can be tricky, like there's some plastic building up, things like that on the property, but it's tough, like it's fucking everything's wrapped up in plastic. So, but they do have a good idea about that, making like plastic bricks. So you like shove all the plastic as hard as you can in these plastic bottles, and then that's a brick. You could use that to build something. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea of what permaculture is. One more thing that a friend of Steven, her name's Coco. Hi Coco, shout out if you guys ever see this. Um, I really liked her description of what permaculture is, and she explained it as a golden path. A golden path that leads you to through the property, trees, medicine bushes, a pond, maybe a nice water hole that you could dip into. So it's a golden path. It's not like rigid. It's not There is no formula for what permaculture is. It's abundance. So yeah, let me explain a few projects I got in the pipeline. If you watch this, hopefully you get excited. Hit me up if you got some projects that you're working on and you want to collaborate, get some advice, just talk it out. Yeah, so we got a piece of property in, I forgot what year. It was about 2 or 3 years ago that we purchased it in southeast Oregon. So it's east of the Cascade Range, the mountain range. And most people, when I say Oregon, they think of like the lush, rainy parts. But this part is more dry. It's higher elevation than the valley, so it gets more cold during the winter. There's snow. Um, it has good rainfall, but not like heavy like in the valley west. Um, and so yeah, it's actually really fucking beautiful. There's pine trees, juniper trees, currant berries, all kinds of shit I don't even know yet. And so we bought this property with like growing weed in mind, but like we're not like monoculturists, we're permaculturists. So growing a bunch of fucking ganja plants isn't really in line with our values. The way we grow ganja is mixed up, like in a polyculture, in with beans next to it, and oh, what's that one? Bioaccumulator. There's this one herb or plant that I'm trying to think of. I'm spacing right now. I gotta do some more research. But yeah, that's how we grow ganja. So I mean, we grew a couple plants one year, and then when the winter comes, it's really a pain. It's a bitch unless you got like 4-wheel drive and chains and all that shit to get back there. So we never really stayed there long. But last year we started hosting. I don't know if you guys heard of Hip Camp, and so we started hosting campers, and they're really into it. They like that spot. It's a beautiful spot. It's on the edge of a forest, a national forest. Um, Really quiet and serene. There's wild horses nearby. So people really appreciated that. But I was thinking, what could take it a step up? Permaculture. Permaculture, that bitch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back in April, and we're gonna build swales. We're gonna plant fruit trees that could go over winter, bushes along the edge, get a well so we could have drinking water, clean drinking water for the campers, and build it up. Put harvestable plants that the campers can come camp, not just camp, but have the experience of getting the fruit, getting the berries off the vine, off the tree, and nourishing themselves while in nature, getting fresh water, clean water, straight from the earth. And yeah, that's just like I was saying earlier, like it's just not that widespread of a concept yet. People in the city just haven't really gotten that. They are, but haven't really activated that yet. So that's one project we got. Permaculture campsite, Southeast Oregon. Keep in touch if you want to learn more, if you want to see more, if you want to help me work on it. We'll probably do some perma blitz, which is like perma blitz, which is like like a work party, highly intensive work party. So yeah, another project I got in the pipeline is my mother's spot. She lives in LA, like East LA, not deep East LA, kind of towards Orange County, um, a little more like in between East and South LA. If you're familiar, it's called Pico Rivera. It's like 15-minute drive, 10-minute drive in the early AM without traffic to downtown LA. And I was actually just on the phone with her last night, and what I was saying was this permaculture wave is picking up momentum. Right now, in this point in history, in this point in time, more people are starting to understand what permaculture is. The fact that I'm getting on this live video and sharing what it is with the world is a testament to how it's building momentum. So what I was telling her is like, get on this now. Let's put little steps. Doesn't have to be right away. Little steps to turn her urban home into a permaculture or an urban permaculture site. And that involves rain catchment, gray water system, fruit trees, a little greenhouse with the garden, the vegetable fruit garden, um, swales. Swales. I don't think I got into swales, but that's basically like building mounds, and especially in the arid region of it's like Mediterranean down in Southern California. I guess some people would call it subtropical. I don't know exactly, but it's very important to capture that rain, especially in the soil, because when it does rain, if it's a dry soil, not fertile, lacking fertility, the rain will just evaporate, or it'll go straight down into the water table and not really benefit the soil. So by building swales, it's like you're putting sponges on the earth, and that holds the water in for as long as possible. Not only that, it allows you less watering in the summer because the soil is moist. So swales are a huge tool in building soil and creating an abundant, fertile landscape. I might even throw a pond in that bitch after a while. But it's really inspiring that she's open to it, and I'm ready to get shit done. I know when I put the call out for volunteers in LA, hella people will show up because I love you, LA, but there's not, and nothing against the permaculturists there currently, but there's not that like spark of excitement right there in that city. I don't know if it's in any other cities. I don't know in many other cities as much as I know LA. I know Portland has some shit, like they have some Cobb bus stops and things like that. So that's cool. But yeah, I'm really confident about utilizing my mom's house to be an example for that whole area. This is just a side story, but Itai, the other instructor of the design course I just took, he's from Israel, and his parents are permaculturists, and they created a little urban lot with like fruit trees and a pond, and they have bees, and it's like a museum, to see the variety of plants that they have thriving there, and the abundance of food they have. It's amazing. It's amazing. So those are two projects. I also got this idea. I'm calling it the Permaculture Hostel Pacific Crest Trail Alliance. And what that is those of you familiar with the Appalachian Trail, I have never hiked it. I've never honestly hiked either. I've only heard stories. But I've heard that the Appalachian Trail is tight, a little more dense. So it's easier to get to hike out to town, get your supplies, get to a hostel. From what I heard on the Pacific Crest Trail, it's a pain in the fucking ass to get from the trail down to town to collect your supplies. It's like you gotta hitchhike, could be hot. So my idea was putting permaculture style hostels in between the trail and town, all along the trail from Mexico to Canada, and creating that network so people can go to these sites, get some rest, get some really good food, volunteer if they feel so inclined, and move on. And so this could be a place not only of permaculture but actual culture. People will share ideas, art, music. It's I'm really excited about that. I'm looking forward to putting that in motion and seeing what can come of it. I want to design a path, because I don't know how many miles my property is from the PCT in Oregon, but I know it's fairly close. So it'd be cool to set up a personal trail from PCT directly to my campsite. But so yeah, those are some of my ideas that I got in the pipeline. It's a journey, it's a path, it's a calling. but at the same time, it's a responsibility. I feel like fucking Spider-Man. I got a huge responsibility with this power that that I have in my mind, and it's just like I got to ignite more people to do the same. Because like I said earlier, permaculture is definitely community. We can all do something really big together. So yeah, with that being said, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Um, I don't think I have anything more to address about what permaculture is. I feel like I covered most everything, gave some examples, showed you what I'm doing, um, talked about Punta Mona, and stay tuned if you want to see more permaculture sites. My family and I are gonna go to Nicaragua. Fuck. I forgot the name of that place, but basically it's a permaculture hostel in the middle of in a lake on an island, Lago de Nicaragua. Hold on, let me find the name real quick. It's like Zopilote. Oh yeah, Zopilote. So we're gonna go there on the island in the lake of Nicaragua, and I'm really excited to go check that out because it sounds like they're really built up. I don't know when they started, but it's like 20 a night. Very inexpensive, $20, I believe, roughly. I might be like off by like $5-10. But they have a restaurant. They have like a store. There's multiple houses to stay in, campsite. It sounds really fucking cool. So I'm excited to go there, and yeah, I'm just like on a permaculture tour. Possibly go check out the instructor Steven, his other spot, La Ecovilla or La Alegria, which are two like eco villages basically. Really cool stuff. Yeah, so stay tuned if you want to see more examples of what permaculture is on my journeys. Other than that, much love. Get out there, move some earth, plant some shit, learn about permaculture. Hit me up if you have any questions or you need any consultation. And of course, have a beautiful day.